Okay. Alright. We're doing it. We're here. This is fine. This is fine. I'm being perceived. That is okay.
All right, we're off to a strong start because I recorded this whole thing and realized I didn't have my audio on. Try that again. Hi, my name is Yuna, and this is my brand new page where I'm going to be yapping about books. So I'm starting this pretty much on a whim. For some reason, the spirit moved me, and here I am. I am a voracious reader. I love reading. I've loved books for as long as I can remember, and I just have so many thoughts shaken around in this freaking thought cage about the books I'm reading, and I don't really have anywhere to put those thoughts. I don't have a huge bookish community anywhere, so I just thought that this would be a great place to kind of dedicate to my love of books and my enthusiasm for books. I think that from this page, you can expect things like curated lists, recommendations, reviews, maybe some reading vlogs. I'm sure there'll be some complaining happening if I'm reading a book that is just tearing my brain apart. So a little bit about me, just as a quick introduction. Like I said, my name is Yuna. I tend to read a lot of fantasy and literary fiction. Those are probably my two most read genres, but I've been getting into sci-fi and thrillers / horror. I love nonfiction. I don't read as much nonfiction as I'd like to, so I think in 2026, I'd like to incorporate more of that into the rotation. Yeah, in 2025, I read 204 books, which is the most books I've ever read in a year, and certainly wasn't my goal. I believe the goal I'd set on Fable for the year was 24 books. Despite that number, I just want to say that I am a huge advocate for intentional, critical, slow reading. I think that there's so much value in taking your time. And, I'm also a huge advocate for using your public library, sharing books with your friends, getting used books. The reason that I read so many books in 2025, well, I think there are two main reasons. One being I started using audiobooks, and I'm not very good with auditory learning. I've never been good with absorbing and retaining information that I only get from my ears. I'm someone who very much needs visual or, tactile learning for things to stick well. So I've tended to avoid things like podcasts and audiobooks. But this year I really spent a lot of time with audiobooks, and I've gotten much better. I still default to physical reading. I prefer physical reading, especially if the writing is like lyrical and beautiful. I want to absorb it with my eyeballs. Or if it's very dense writing, then I will also probably just read it physically because that'll be the best way for me personally. But, in my day-to-day, I have a lot of time where I'm doing things with my hands and I can't be physically reading, that I found that audiobooks are a great way to use that time, like when I'm cooking or cleaning or when I'm doing art. If I'm painting or crafting, that's easily a few hours in the day that I can dedicate to reading with my ears. So definitely audiobooks kind of ramped up the rate at which I was consuming books. And the second reason is that I like reading novellas and short stories. Some of the books that I read this year were as short as 30 pages or less, but in Goodreads or Fable, whatever you use to track your books, they still count it as a whole book. Like books that are short, these, if you're doing them on audio, they're probably only about an hour and a half. I listen to audiobooks at 1.5 speed. And so, yeah, they end up being maybe about an hour and a half. And so that's one long car ride. I have a pretty long commute to work. So I can listen to a novella on the way to work and a novella on the way back. So yeah, there are many times this year when I was traveling or, I had long commutes where I was going through multiple novellas or multiple short stories in a day. So 204 books does not mean that I read 204 chonky fantasy novels. Long story short, that's how I ended up, I think, reading 204 books. It's certainly not my standard. It's not the goal for me. For 2026, I believe I set my goal at 50 books, but I don't really care. I'm going to read at the pace I read, which tends to be pretty quickly anyway. But, all that to say, if any of that sounds interesting, and if your taste in reading looks anything like this, or this, or this, or even this, and if your TBR has titles like these, or these, or these, then I think you should stick around because we'll probably have a good time. I'm not really sure what the shape of this channel is going to be. I don't know what posting frequency I'm going to have, but I'm kind of taking it one step at a time and seeing what feels good, if it feels good. Hopefully some of that sounded good to you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.